Hi, this is Jason from Effective Maintenance Dashboards. Welcome back to the next video. In this video we're going to talk about dates and date ranges and the dates table and why it's important. So the first thing I want to do is just talk you through the data model. So in the data model we have got two tables. We've got a table that contains the backlog information and a table that contains a cost trend information. And the two fields we've got in the table are the extract date and the backlog count. So on a particular date, what was the backlog? And in the cost, and we've got a couple of measures here that I've created. One is a total backlog measure and then one is a maximum backlog figure. In this table here, we've got the extract date and we've got the total maintenance cost. So that extract date could easily be the cost, the date the costs hit the chart of accounts, or the date the costs were accepted into the system. And we've got a total maintenance cost measure here as well. So often what we'll find is that we need to be able to create a trend. And in this table here, I've created a trend, a table which could be used as a trend of the total backlog for each day. And we can see here that that's in here, and we've got the total backlog of each day. We've got a total here, which is not really that useful. We could easily switch that off. There is a little bit of a trick you can use to stop that display, which I'll cover in another video. But for the time being, we've got this one here. Now, if we also want to display another measure over the date range, and often we do, we want to be able to compare measures. So it might want to be the backlog versus the average backlog in the last 12 months, or it might be the total backlog versus the percentage of backlog, maximum or minimum backlog in that particular day or in that particular week. So often you might want to display two things, or two measures. In this example here, we're going to display the date extract and total backlog, and we're going to put the total costs in there as well. So okay, I pull the total costs across, and the first thing we can see, actually I'll use the measure rather than the actual value, is that we have got the same value in each cell. And the reason for that, and often the reason, if you see this type of pattern happening, often the reason is something is missing, a relationship is missing in the model. So if we look at this data model here, we can see that there is no relationship between these two tables. So we're using the extract date as the axis here, or the first column here, and we're plotting that extract date, or we're plotting the total backlog against it, which is fine because they're in the same table, and we're also trying to plot this total maintenance cost against the extract date from the backlog table. Now there's no relationship there, so it's just going to display the total value for the whole table, which is that value you're seeing. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a relationship between the two extract dates. And then we're going to go back here and we can see, great, we've got this value now. We've got this value, so there's a relationship. So this extract date is able through this one-to-one relationship to go and allocate through this extract date here, find the total maintenance cost and display it here. Now that looks great. If it wasn't for one thing, we can see we've got this value at the top here, the 75,490, and that is not allocated to anything. It's not allocated to a date, and the reason for that is because we've got a missing date. So in here we don't have a 9th of January. However, if we go and look at the next slide here, we can see that we don't have a 9th of January here, so let's go. So there is, where are we? Let's actually go back to this previous one. So there is no date to allocate that against. We do have a 9th of January, we do have a cost against a maintenance cost on the 9th of January, but because we're using this extract date from the total backlog table, which doesn't have a, 10th of January, then there's nowhere to allocate it against. So that means that it just sits up at the top here and is essentially floating in the table here. So we don't know where to allocate that. So, okay, let's try another example where we could perhaps use the data extract date from the cost. And that's an example here. So if we go into this example here, we can see that on the 10th, we've got that cost because the extract date we're using in this example here, I hover here, is the extract date from the cost trend table. And it does have a 10th. However, we've still got a value up here that's unallocated, and that's because it doesn't have a 20th. So we can see here there's no value for the maintenance costs on the 20th, so there's no value here in the table for the extract. So that's an issue when it comes to calculating figures within your data model, and something we want to avoid. So how do we avoid it? Well, we create what's called a dates table. So if we go into this table here, here's the two examples here in red and in various shades of pink. So we want to be able to trend the total maintenance costs and the total backlog costs against a date range which we know has got a guaranteed day for each day within the range we want to examine or want to trend over. And the way we can do that is to use a dates table. So how do we create a dates table? The first thing we need to do is get data, and then we go to blank query. And we can see here that it is offering us the opportunity to put a blank query in here. So then we go to advanced editor, and I am going to paste in this code here. Now I'll put a link to this code underneath the video. You don't need to necessarily know what this code means. You just need to copy and paste it in and follow the steps I've done in this video, and it will create a table. So what you need to do first of all is add in a start date. So you need to understand the underlying data to do this and make sure your date ranges are covered. And I'll put this one in until the end of February. So that's the start date, that's the start and end date, and this query will create a row for each of the dates from the 1st of the 1st 2018 to the 29th of the 2nd 2020. And we also want to put a financial year start month, and that's going to be 1. And then we just press invoke. So you can see it's created a table here, and the table has got a date, a row for each date. But the other thing this date table has created is different views on the date. So different aspects on that date. So here's the year. So this table, this column here is just extracted the year, the quarter, the month of the year, so it's a number, the day of the month. We've got the month name, we've got the calendar and month, so that's January 2018, February 2018. So there's lots of views on the same data, and this is useful if you want to start looking at aggregating data across different columns. So you might want to aggregate the data and say, okay, I don't want to see the data for every day, I just want to see everything for January 2018. Then you can just filter by this value here, and the measures will aggregate the values up for January 2018. And we'll come to that in a second. So we're just going to go and change this and call it dates. And we're going to close this. So we can see the dates table has been created, and it's got each of these different columns in it. We then go and mark this table here as a dates table. So we've got to tell Power BI that this is a dates table. So we click here, and all it's going to do is check to see that we do have a sequential range of dates, an unbroken range of dates. Now there's a couple of fields on that dates table. That week ending is actually a data type, and so is date. So you've got to select the right column. And we'll select date, validate it successfully, and then just click OK. And what we're going to do is we're going to go and create a relationship. So prior to this, we'd create a relationship between these two dates here, just for the purposes, educational purposes. I would not recommend you do that if you've got a dates table. So we can delete this. And then we will go to the dates table, and we will then go and create a link between the extract date and the date, and the extract date and the date, and it should create one-to-one relationships. Go back in here now. So I've already got a table here which has the backlog count and the total maintenance cost. So these are taken from here, the backlog count and the total maintenance cost, a couple of measures there. And rather than use the extract date from either of these tables, I'm going to use the date from this dates table. And what we can see is that there, first of all, there are none of these values here that are unassigned. And that's because this 75,000 here, 76,000 almost, is assigned to the 10th, because we've got a complete range of data right across this whole dates table. And this value here, even though there's not a maintenance cost registered on the 20th, we've got a 20th in our dates table, so we can allocate this value here, the total backlog value. And that allows us then to create a much more consistent trend with the knowledge that we've got a date for each day that we want to trend over. So the other option, the other reason we use this is for creating aggregated date columns. I'm not 100% sure if that's a correct spelling, but I think you get the idea. And I'll show you a couple of examples here. One which is going to be, we want to be able to see these values here, and we want to see this at the end of each week. So we can go down and look at the information here, and we have got a week ending. Yep, week ending, and we will pull that into here, and we can see it's got the, because we've added a measure here that's total maintenance cost. It sums up the maintenance cost for all of the dates with a week within the week ending the 7th of January. Now we don't want to sum up the backlog figures, so what I've done here is I've created a max, use this max function, and we just want to look at the maximum backlog over that date, over that week. So it might be that we want to be in a position where, looking at the max backlog is quite good because it gives you a better idea of where we really are. Often what you'll find is if the backlog figures are measured on a Monday, for example, then there will be a big push to get the work either moved or deferred or completed before the end of the week. But we really want to get a trend of what was the maximum backlog figure that week, and we can get that information there. And now this date here is sorted just nicely, because sorted in date order, which is just what we want, because this week ending, if we go and find it in here, is actually a data type date, and Power BI knows to sort data type dates in a date order, which is great. Okay, so the next one we're going to look at is we want to be able to see the total maintenance cost and the maximum backlog figure. We want to be able to see that for each month. So let's first of all put in the month of year. Now what's happened here is month of year is actually being summed, so we don't want to sum it. Actually, it's not the month of the year, actually it's a month in the year. Where are we? Month in calendar, that's the one I want. So let's add that in and get rid of this. Yep, there we can see. So we want to be able to see January, February, March in 2018 through to 2019 and 2020. Now what's happened here though is it's sorted this alphabetically. Now the reason for that is that this value here is actually not a date, it's a text file. So it looks like a date, but it doesn't behave like a date because it's a text file here. There is no date format that gives you this view, or this particular three letters, then the three letters representing the month and then the year. So we've constructed one of them when we create the dates table, and it's a text field. So how do we get by that? Well, also in this, just expand this slightly. Also in here, there's one called month N year. Month N year. So if I pull that in, and now it doesn't look particularly great, and you would never add that into a table really. However, let's just don't want to sum it either. Yeah, here we go. But what that is the day, which is just 00, the month, and then the year backwards. And if you write it this way, then this becomes a number. So if we look at this month end year, we'll see this is a whole number. And if you sort that number, then it actually sorts the by the year and the month. And then we can see that then, that because we've sorted this table here, these have been sorted by the year and the month. So that's a much better view. Now, we don't necessarily want to have this in a table or in a graph. So what we can do is we can click on the month in the calendar. There's it there. And we can opt to sort by a different column in the same table. So we're going to sort it by month end year. And then we can get rid of this month end year. And now, because it's sorted by that behind the scenes, we don't need to see it, but we've told the Power BI to sort calendar in month in calendar by month in year, which is in here, yeah, month in year. And it's all sorted, and it's displayed how we'd like it. And if we created a graph for that, it would look like it would display that as if it was a date, as if it was sorting a date. And that's exactly what we want. Okay, so apologies for this being a slightly longer video. I think you've hopefully got an idea about why we need a dates table and why it's important, and how to create a dates table, and then how to carry out some aggregation using the dates table. If you found this video useful, it would really help me out if you gave it a like, and if you subscribe to my channel and stay up to date with the latest videos I'm going to be releasing. That would be fantastic too. Any comments below would be great. I'll leave a link below with details on how you can download the dates table and create your own dates table. But apart from that, thanks for listening, and I will talk to you in the next video.